You have two eyes, huh? Do you understand the game a bit? Yeah, have a look.
I'm not saying anything to you in particular because I know you're not too accurate with your reporting.
That's what you paid
so you're
for.
Saying I should resign. So you're saying I should resign?
I think
that's
you
your
should,
opinion. Is that right?
That's my
opinion.
opinion.
Fine.
Are you going to resign then?
No, of course I'm not going to resign.
Let's simplify things next time.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of TNC, the season preview that we have said in the title is going to be under 1 hour. So we better get into it. Josh, Nick D'Urbano, Joey Lynch. This is kind of like the MacArthur front four. You know, I'm probably Daniel Arzani, Josh Hoy Devere, D'Urbano Al-Hassan Toure, and Joey De Silva. I'll give you that. But what I'm saying is talent. We're talented. We're skillful. Josh, last night you were commentating the Joeys, and we won 23-0.
I did.
Josh, what did I say? Joey? It's a bad start.
You said Joey. No, you said it right.
the-
He just said the Joeys, the under-17s, not Joey, but the Joeys. And I am coming to you from regional Victoria, so I do have to add the Barnaby Josh hat. It is election time. I was driving around Shepparton today. It's the posters are covering everything. One candidate whose name is Cheryl Hammer's slogan is #HammerTime, which I think deserves a cease and desist. But yes, I am on the campaign trail in regional Victoria, coming to you on dodgy internet from the cheapest motel that money can buy. And I was commentating last night as the Joeys annihilated the Northern Mariana Islands 23-0. Get some of that in your Northern Mariana Islands.
Get that up, yeah. Come on.
Legitimately a country with a smaller population than Shepparton, where the tournament is being hosted. So only 57.
I've never heard of it. Had you ever heard of it?
There.
I've never heard of this country.
I hadn't, but then I Googled it, and then the main island is Saipan, which I had heard of. It's a weird country because it's like a US overseas territory, but because they're so far away, they even though they all have US passports, they all compete as a separate country. It's a really interesting history. They've all got American accents, which was like super surprising. Yes, the main sports there are baseball and basketball, and they've got a tiny population. So when it comes to an under-17
looks like a lovely part of the world,
team,
Josh.
it's a really like beautiful tropical paradise holiday destination. But when it comes to an under-17s national team, if you like soccer and you're under 17 in the Northern Mariana Islands, you're probably in. So I don't think it was any slight against them that they went down 23-0, nor do I think it was a slight against the Joeys that they kept trying to score goals, because goal difference is actually super important in this tournament when it comes to top spot. China weren't holding back against Cambodia. They smashed them 9-0, which was a real statement given that the Joeys actually lost to Cambodia, or the under-16s rather, lost to Cambodia, many of the same players in both squads back in August. So
crisis
basically,
meetings for
once China
Cascade
laid
Honda
down
and the
that market that
Cambodian
afternoon.
senior stuff.
Honda's gone. Honda's gone recently. He apologised that he couldn't do more for Cambodian football in his farewell post. But yes, after China had laid down that marker in the afternoon, the Joeys really had to give it some welly in the evening, and that they did with 4 goals for Nestori Irankunda.
All right. Look,
Sorry, guys.
Joe,
Before you continue, Stoll. For those that have been doing their research about the Northern Mariana Islands, as I said, it's a beautiful part of the world, mate. The Saipan World Resort looks like Wet and Wild, and I got to say, I think that's going to be my next like holiday destination. There's like 3 big ass water slides in the resort. I'm there, mate. Like, like that looks awesome. Who wouldn't want to go there?
Nick D'Urbano goes overseas and then doesn't leave the resort.
This is meant to be under an hour, and we're talking about resorts in a country I'd never heard of until yesterday. All right, this is a disaster. Already we've got Peter Cuffia, ridiculous, only 1 hour. Run them memes, lol, 1 hour. These people are doubting us. We need to prove the doubters wrong, all right? I feel like I'm Arnie talking to the Socceroos. All right, no one believes in us that we can do it under an hour. But with our DNA, I can make you millionaires. Shout out Ben Smith, who says, greeting from Brussels, on a train to Brussels, greeting from Belgium worker. Ben, how good is your Wi-Fi? Because we need someone to come on and talk Perth Glory. Basically, so someone in the chat will send you a link. If you can make it, great. If you can't, whatever. Don't take your shirt off. I'm only allowed to do that when overseas in Europe. Second, this is how it's going to work tonight. All right, there are 12 teams in the A-League. We're going to go 5 minutes on each. I don't know if that 5 minutes is going to be any good. At the end of the 5 minutes, we'll just say where we think they're going to finish. We might get confused and say a team is going to finish 8th and then say another team is going to finish 8th. Do not hold us to account. All right, that's not what this is about. All right, this is about just getting this out, getting it done, and having a great time. So
it's 5 minutes each on each team, right?
Yeah.
So 20 minutes total on each time. You get 5 minutes on them. I get 5 minutes on them.
Bullshit. Let's get into it. All right, get your comments in.
All I hear is these are the words of someone who's very sleep deprived after a big Champions League mornings.
We are not. We go as long as we need to. Nick Stoll.
Adelaide United. We got 4 minutes and 54 seconds. The human handbrake. Carl Viet. Josh, how do you think he's going to go this season? Keep it snappy. Let's go.
Good that they've got Halloran and Goodwin locked in, but how many significant signings have they really made? How many big acquisitions, headline acquisitions, are there for Adelaide this season? That's my big question. How are they going to improve on 4th place when they've basically got the entire same team? Yes, they brought through some young players recently. Alexander Popovic looks fantastic, but still that midfield composition, Isaias one day, maybe a few more minutes for D'Urbano. It doesn't seem like Adelaide has really kicked on or improved or built on what they had last year.
Well, you're right, Josh, in the sense that their other major additions beyond the return of Ben Halloran are Harry van der Sarg and Ben Warland, two two young players from Sydney FC that weren't getting minutes at the Harboursiders and have gone out seeking greener pastures elsewhere. Adelaide, I think actually looking at, I didn't do the research, but looking at the research somebody else did, I think Adelaide are amongst the most consistent teams in the A-League Men in the sense that they are constantly in or around the mix for finals. I think if you look at their mean ladder position, certainly over the past 10, 11 years, maybe throughout the history of the competition, they sort of have the most consistent placing. It's always, 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe with an outlier season here or there. So it sort of feels churlish to declare that Adelaide are going to collapse and fall towards the bottom of the table. I feel there are worse teams in the A-League Men than them, and I feel there are teams with a lower floor than them. But I would have my doubts around the red ceiling about just if they can make that breakthrough. And they got talent up top, Goodwin and Halloran feeding Ibusuki's just he's an Easter Island statue. He's going to get on the end of a lot of their service and score. That's what he does. But concerns around defensive depth and just if they've got enough talent to beat the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I think this season for me, they're just going to be where they always are because they haven't gotten any worse, but they haven't really gotten any better. I think the Ben Halloran signing is a really good one. I mean, I could only think of positive things to think that would only bolster their attacking third. And they've got obviously the goals and assists machine, Craig Goodwin, Josh's boy in the team that, we know what he's going to get and what he's going to do in terms of output. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what the midfield makeup is next year. Is Carl Viet going to pivot away from Wande and Isaias and actually look to incorporate someone like Louis D'Urbano, look to incorporate someone like Josh Cavallo midfield? I think Josh Cavallo actually said this season he's not playing as a left back. He's going to be playing further up the pitch. At least that's where he's been training in preseason. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But they've got some good young kids that I'm very curious to see how they kick on this year. Popovic, Johnny Yule, Bernardo's going to be out for the first few weeks as well because he's away, and same with Nestor Irankunda. But I'm curious to see how they sort of all come together and what sort of development they have this season in terms of where they go with their just individual progress this season. But for me, it's looking like another somewhere between 3rd and 6th or 3rd and 7th for me. They're just, it's going to be probably another elimination final or semi-final appearance for them. And we'll see if maybe they could shock us all and go a bit further.
Chuck Meat says via YouTube, get your comments in. Adelaide's window was terrible. Does kind of seem to be the consensus. And, it's a tough kind of property market at the moment as well. So George Blackwood might be affected. Let me Nick gave us your prediction. Joey
Hold on,
and
Stolt.
Josh.
What's your analysis? What's your thoughts?
My thoughts is they were boring last season. They'll probably be boring this season, but like you say, like they'll be probably top 6. I reckon they'll probably be around. I reckon they'll be bang on 6.
Nice.
Joey, Josh,
Anything
20
else?
seconds to give a prediction.
They've got the. I did
think,
my
yeah.
kit rankings for ESPN yesterday. They've got the best home kits in the league.
100%. Good shout, Joey.
Mhm.
All right. Anyone else want to say anything?
think they're going to be. I think they're going to just miss. I think they're going to be 7th.
Ooh.
I've got them in. I'm not going to predict 1 through 12.
Boring.
I've got them in the mid tier of teams.
Oh,
Could play finals. Could miss out.
Yeah.
FB Skippy asked, for the record, did this start late or on time? That's the good thing about not announcing when you're starting. You can't be held accountable. The answer is we started, I think, late because we were meant to start at 5, and then I was still sleeping at 5. So,
But the
watch
beautiful
Champions
thing
League on
was
Stan Sport.
we pushed the chat out because we were actually talking about tomato sauce. So we continued our tomato chat from last week, and that's why we started late, because we were chatting about how we make our sauce. So in the comments, let us know how you make your tomato sauce as well.
That's true.
Good news for everybody watching along. The TNC panel is universal in making our own pasta sauce. None of it used the store-bought stuff.
Let me give you a tip as well. All right. Here's a tip. You want the sauce to be very just nice on your pasta. Put a little bit of olive oil on the pasta first, so the sauce just stays on it really beautifully. It's like the sauce's best friend. It just allows it to have a great time on the pasta. All right, that's good, D'Urbano. Keep us on time.
I couldn't disagree more, Stoll. The magic is the starch in the pasta cooking water. That's what helps it adhere to the pasta itself. You got to add a bit of the cooking water back in.
Yeah, I agree. You got to do that too, but you got to put a bit of olive oil, extra virgin, on and choose high quality olive oil. Then choose like the shit that all right. Choose the good stuff and then put that. This is a cooking podcast. We just we've changed. Ben Smith says one day in SAS double pivot made me stop watching Adelaide last season. Right? It's an issue. All right. Let's get on to Brisbane Roar. Who wants to go first on Brisbane Roar?
Brisbane Roar. They're not going to be as incredibly frustrating and, dare I say it, absolutely painful to watch going forward this season than they were last season. I think Brisbane Roar had the worst ratio of actual created chances to converted chances in the entire league last season. Obviously, bringing in Charlie Austin, former Premier League striker, amazing talker, very forthright, very good media performer, open invite to Charlie Austin, come on TNC. He's going to help them, as Josh was observed and has been observed elsewhere. He's looking like he's going to play more of a pivot role, serving as a point of reference for that attack. Players can be running off him. The return of Riku Danzaki on loan again. We've seen what he can do in this team and the excitement that he can bring in. So there's going to be excitement on that front. However, again, concerns around depth of talent, concerns around depth of top-line talent, especially we've seen them as good of a story Joel Knowles is. They're very deep on NPL talent brought up and things like that. Tom Aldred missed a lot of football last season with fitness concerns and the like. And it's impossible to talk about Brisbane Roar without talking about the upheaval in the playing group that has occurred over this off-season. The Corey Brown affair, one would have to think that is playing on the minds of the Brisbane Roar players. That affair, the moving around, the training base schmozzle. We've seen people who you would think are in the know up there in Queensland, talking down Brisbane's hopes and the like. So there has to be concerns that off-field drama is going to bleed in, affect morale in the dressing room, and potentially derail their season.
Josh, thoughts on Brisbane Roar?
I have some major concerns. I would echo what Joey said about the Corey Brown situation. I do think having Charlie Austin up top gives them a focal point that they just simply didn't have last season. They had no one who could play with their back to goal and receive the ball to feet and be, that target man. As to how that actually affects his goal scoring output, I'm interested to see, because I don't think that Charlie Austin physically is able to drop deep and then get all the way up the pitch and spring into the box and score that often. When I saw them play in the Australia Cup, I felt that he could either do one or the other. He can either be a goal scorer or he can be the centre for them to play into, and it'll have to fall to the wingers to score the goals. And yes, Riku Danzaki is a big addition, but yeah, I just think they're asking too much of Austin if they're trying to make him be all things to all people and basically do a Beckham Mikkeltadze.
D'Urbano?
Yeah, I echoed these statements in regards to having a bit of concern for them. When you look at the actual acquisitions on paper in terms of Austin Danzaki, even Jordan Courtney-Perkins, Joe Knowles and Carlo Armiento, they're all pretty good signings. But as mentioned, as Josh has spoken about, there is a lot of reliance on Charlie Austin sort of making stuff happen from nothing. But I think Danzaki helps alleviate that a little bit. He was very good 2 seasons ago, and if he can, play in a similar manner have a similar output, that's only going to be a benefit for Brisbane. I mean, Henry Hawes had a good end to last season and a very sort of, I think, a solid Australia Cup stint as well. And they've still got Jay O'Shea and such. But defensively, they're looking a little bit shaky. Like, other than Tom Aldred and Courtney Perkins, I think they're looking a bit, I don't know. So for me, there's a prediction for this season. I think they're going to miss the finals and will probably be in the bottom 4.
Yep, go.
He's mentioned him there, so our first of the season.
I finished The Sopranos last night, by the way. What a show.
Hey, how good. What a show.
I agree with you guys. I think they're really going to struggle. I think that off-field stuff catches up with you. I don't mind the midfield pairing of O'Shea and Akbari, but Danzaki is a player I love, and I'm going to love watching him for Brisbane Roar. And I think Charlie Austin will be successful this season, but I just don't think that they're going to make finals. Couple of good points coming in the comments. Chuck Meat. Roar had a good attack with Austin Danzaki and Millie Uznic, but a shaky defense without Tom Aldred. Shotskis says, outlook for the season, again, for Brisbane Roar isn't particularly great. Feels like they've brought in Austin and Riku, but otherwise the squad still lacks quality. Another week off-season courtesy of owners. And then run them memes with the slanderous opinions. 3/4 of the crew is still half asleep. Mate, we're working hard. All right.
Which one's the awake one?
Okay. This is what
exactly.
he does. No. He's trying to get a bit of infighting happening, and that we all claim to be the awake one. All right. I know what you're doing, run them memes. I don't like it. FB just asked. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, but go to this comment, then I'll go to the next one. All right, go.
Did Josh steal Nick's microwave, or is that a motel in Shepparton?
Yes, and yes. Yeah.
he takes it with him everywhere he goes. It's a good life.
I can smell that motel from here, Josh, having stayed in plenty of those on my trips to Geelong, like similar ones. Like, that has that real motel-y smell, and I'm getting like the shivers right now from my last stay down there. Like that real yuck, soapy.
That is a disturbing statement, Nick D'Urbano.
But you can smell a motel. Like, the motel smell. It's like the new car smell. You know what I mean? Like,
new car smells nice. Not the
but it's the opposite.
It goes to show you that if Nick D'Urbano sends you a DM asking you to come back to his motel room, don't say yes.
Yeah, I know. He's the bloke blowing up at us about talking all of these dating app jokes, and then he's the one bringing up spending a lot of time in cheap motels.
Saying from the
what are we supposed to do with this?
When you walk into a motel room, it stinks. Like, I'm just being honest.
Let us know. Obviously, I have a lot of experience with that, Nick D'Urbano.
Because I had to work in Geelong, for God's sake. I had to make trips down there. I had to find a place overnight. No, the question I was going to ask is, Shotsky's asked, D'Urbano, can you confirm? What am I confirming? Can you please clarify that for me, Shotsky?
Motel smells.
Motel smells. I'll give that to you, mate. Don't worry. I'll explain it.
Hey, just quickly, does anyone actually think Brisbane Roar can make the finals?
Only in the sense that the A-League is a completely bonkers league, and that you can fashion a narrative that every single club can make the finals.
Can make it,
Good caveat, but having said that, We don't think they're making the final.
It's a big
All right.
season for Warren Moon. I think Warren Moon.
Huge season for Warren Moon.
Lot of goodwill for him. Local Queensland lad, has shown tactical aptitude at times. Big season for him.
Oh, big call from Nicholas via YouTube. If Roar can perform like we did for the first 60 minutes of the match against Adelaide away in the Cup, we will be top 4. You heard it here first. I like it, Nicholas. If they do make the top 4, we will give you credit. If they don't, we'll probably forget about it.
We're going to forget about it anyway, so he's going to have to
remind
us.
The clarification is, sorry, that was way back about Stoll's olive oil claim. No, Stoll's bang on. He's bang on. He's 100%.
All right. D'Urbano, because you've complimented me, I'm going to come to you first on the Central Coast Mariners. How do you think they're going to go this season?
Look, I actually think they're going to be very competitive again this season. I think Nick Montgomery's done a great job. Well, last season did a great job with them, but again, he's always going to be up against it because it seems like every year with the Mariners, they lose a plethora of players and a plethora of important players and have to bring a whole new bunch of new important players in. I mean, this year they've lost Mark Birighitti, Kai Rolls, Marco Orenia, Lewis Miller, Matt Simon is a locker room player. Obviously didn't play last year, but that importance in the locker room. We'll lose Garang Kuol later on as well. But I'm curious to see what some of these new guys can bring in. I mean, Danny Vukovic is a known quantity between the sticks. He's a good replacement. But some of the foreign guys, I mean, Kelechi John, Paula Yongo, Marco Tullio. No, that's not Marco Tullio. Marco Tullio. To see what they can do this year. But I think they're going to be just thereabouts in that sort of mid-tier. If they make finals, they'll be in that lower half of the bottom 6, but will probably be on the precipice because they've got enough quality. And I mean, they're going to be a hard team to break down because we know what we're going to get from Nick Montgomery's side in the 4-4-2. And I'm really excited to see Cummings in a full season. I reckon he could genuinely win the Golden Boot this season. I think he's right up there. We'll push Jamie McLaren, who obviously, has won it, I think, 3 seasons in a row. But I think if anyone could potentially knock McLaren off his perch, it could potentially be Jason Cummings this season with a full year down here. So seeing how he links up and who he links up with, if they can fill that really important Mark Gordenia role, is going to be a very, very intriguing thing to watch as this season rolls on, whether it's Moresche, whether it's Tullio playing further up or a Yongo. I think that's going to be a curious watch.
Josh, what are your thoughts on the Mariners this season?
Well, Garang Kuol is going. They won't get the ridiculous boost that he gave them last season, scoring every time he came on the pitch. I'm interested to see how Cummings plays after Graham Arnold inevitably leaves him out of the World Cup squad.
Wow.
Because he came here to play for the Socceroos, and when Arnold inevitably disappoints the stall and picks someone else, and his dream dies, is he going to be the same motivated player?
It's a good point.
Could it be the opposite?
It's a good
point. Could it be the BFU season? Or could it be? Or could he make the World Cup squad and then the Mariners miss him for an entire month and their season goes to pieces? Like either way, it could go south.
Nah.
Could he? Hey, they've got an even better point. Could he potentially have the big FU season, not get picked up by the Socceroos, and then say, you know what, I'm going back and I'm playing for Scotland instead?
Oh, brutal.
And absolutely tears it up. It's like Scotland say, you know what, he can play for Scotland.
Oh, he's not. Yeah, he's not tired.
He's got double the amount of senior international caps for Scotland than he does Australia.
14 chess,
all right. Joey, can you make an even better point than D'Urbano's even better point?
Well, on the Garang front, it's going to be interesting because I know we were talking about it on the podcast, and Vince Regari's article in the Sydney Morning Herald today confirms it, that he has been called up into the young Socceroos squad for Asian qualifying, which means that he will, at the very least, miss week 2 of the Mariners campaign, possibly will miss week 3 against Perth Glory as well. And one also has to keep into account that he was very recently in Newcastle, hanging out and signing contracts and hanging out with the fans, and he just flew back to Australia. So admittedly, he was never going to start their round 1 game against the Newcastle Jets. So what state is he going to even be for round 1? Is it going to be a case of Kuol it's not like, he's the type of player that probably needs much of a pre-season given his impact, but he's heavily disrupted lead-in. What does that do even before they lose him to Newcastle? I think Arena is a massive, massive loss for this club. He was low-key one of the best players. At times, he was low-key one of the best players in the A-Leagues when he was out here. So he's going to be a really huge loss. And what I'm also looking at is that back four. They've lost Lewis Miller, Kai Rolls, and Oliver Bazan. Not Oliver Bazan. And why am I blanking on their keeper's name? Mark Birighitti. They've lost 3 key contributors from that back four. Obviously, Danny Vukovic has come in. This podcaster, Dan Hall, truthers, we all think that he was the actual linchpin in there. I'm going to keep making my point, Nick Stoll, so you might as well put the phone down. But a lot of the time that the Mariners were kept in games by that back four, whereas in years past, the Mariners' defense would just fold. This time, they had Birighitti and that back four that were able to bail them out when their midfield and their attack gave way. Can that safety blanket, that safety net remain for this season? I think is going to be a big question as well.
Yeah, I think Qual will struggle.
The big question, Joey,
is
how will the New York Jets perform in the AFC East?
Yeah, and also, Qual, how does he go kind of against Miami Dolphins? Like that's going to be, can he get past that defense? I think
the Dolphins.
The
Dolphins are a criminal
receiver.
No, the Dolphins.
3-1, mate.
The Dolphins are a negligent organization.
Oh, no. ESPN does not criticize any NFL team, especially on the TNC thing. I had to mute.
Mate, ESPN would love us to criticize the NFL. Haven't you seen? Stephen A. Smith makes a career out of hating on the Cowboys.
All right. Well, he's got his own podcast. We got ours. Ben Smith says, Nick, the hotel motel. Nick, we lost you there for a minute. You got hit with the microwave TV app.
TV app, double whammy, mate. I ran downstairs. And I'm like,
sorry.
Nah, not literally. Nah, not yours, Josh.
Daniel says they're coming to its peak. They're about to explode this season. Very nice. Chuck Meat, man, you're giving some good comments today. Central Coast Mariners have brought in some smart replacements and could make finals, but I think they just miss out. I kind of as well. I don't know if those Portuguese players. It's interesting that they've all come from Portugal. I imagine one agent might be behind that. But yeah, the central midfield.
Hey, it wouldn't be the first time that one agent has recruited the entire Mariners squad.
Yeah. Yeah, the central midfielder looks a bit stale without Bazanic. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was abducted by a UFO and now has returned to the Wanderers, one of the kind of underrated storylines of this season. Not many people are talking about it. But what we are going to be talking about is the Australia Cup champions, MacArthur. Joey, I'll come to you first. Maybe you'll give us a 8-minute answer, a bit shorter than your usual ones. MacArthur, thoughts on them this season?
I think MacArthur are going to be a much more interesting side to watch this season. Obviously, we saw them in the Cup. We listed off the various attackers that they have already in this show. Daniel Da Silva, Daniel Arzani, Alhassan Toure, Ulysses Davia, even Lachlan Rose has a job in that side. He's sort of like the energizer bunny running around pressing and doing some of the dirty work as well. They are going to be, if it clicks into place, a fun side to watch this season, I think. Now, how much of that is down to Dwight York's coaching versus perhaps a lack of coaching from Dwight York, more so just telling the kids to go out there and have fun? Who knows? But that is, when they've got talented players like that, it's going to be fun to watch. I do have concerns surrounding their defensive depth. It feels like every side sort of in the competition has concerns around their defensive depth. But MacArthur, I feel like, especially in transition, they could prove very lethal going one way, but also very, just very open the other way as well.
Porous,
and it's going to be interesting to just see how much, especially when they have the ball for long stretches of time, how much of their attack is going to function as a result of collective ability and functionality and all the parts working together well versus just passing the ball to one of your good players and expecting them to do something. So that's going to be interesting to watch heading into this season. Also interested to see Mario Williams, the Antiguan midfielder come defender, because we've never had an Antiguan before. He's never played out the Caribbean before. He's a complete magical mystery too.
Speaking of magical mystery, Nick D'Urbano, thoughts on MacArthur this season?
They're going to be fun. I mean, they got a lot of saucy players. It's going to be fun watching them with Arzani, De Silva, De Villa, a lot of them, right? Like, but defensively, as we've all said, there are some concerns when they come up against better teams. What is that starting back for? Is it Aspero and Uskok as the starting centre-back partnership? Does Alex Suznia work his way in? Do we see Mario Williams, the cross-code athlete, former NFL player, potentially slotting in the back half as well? Sorry, Teo, for stealing your joke. But
he's not an actual former NFL player to all our listeners, by the way.
It's a namesake. It's a namesake, yes. But also,
me and Josh were like, oh, wow, is he? Oh,
but by sheer weight of their attacking quality, I think they're going to be a hard team to beat, because I reckon they could actually score in big volumes with just the guys that they're putting in around whoever leads the line. Craig Noon's still there as well, who's obviously going to come in and add something different too. So I'm quite bullish about them this season. I think, well, no pun intended, but I think they're going to be probably somewhere between that, as it sounds boring, it's the new under 2.5, right? It's between 4th and 8th for me for the Bulls. You're gonna have fun.
I'll tell you what's not fun, your microwave and TV app. Josh, without saying they're going to be good in attack and potentially poor in defense, can you give me some analysis on MacArthur?
I don't know that they will be poor in defense. I think they lack name recognition in defense. They were really solid throughout their Australia Cup run. Maybe they had, as Nick storms out, maybe they had a weaker draw, perhaps. I'm getting distracted here. They had a weaker draw than some of the other teams. But I don't think I'm ready to say, yes, this Dwight York side is obviously going to be defensively terrible, just because some of the names back there aren't exactly stellar. I think it's based on system and how well Dwight can coach that. Going forward the other way, I think we're all excited about what they could bring and the freedom that those wingers are going to be allowed to play with. I think Al Hassan Toure could have a really, really big season, playing off the right-hand side, and with a coach that clearly believes in him and is willing to give him plenty of minutes and empower him, I suppose. I've got them way up there. I mean, I think you have to after their Australia Cup performances. I've got them in 3rd.
Boom. I got them top 2, baby. Top 2 for MacArthur. All right. Let's do it. The remontada season. Let's go, Bulls, baby.
I feel like we also need... There's one...
The remontada of the Bulls.
We didn't even name him when we were listing off their attack in depth. They got Craig Noon, coming in as well, who's shown what he can do.
D'Urbano mentioned Noon.
Did he? I couldn't hear him over
before everything went to shit.
Before everything went to shit. Yeah.
All right.
Well, oh my God.
We mentioned Craig Noon. While D'Urbano's internet is working, I'm going to ask him about Melbourne City. D'Urbano, thoughts on Melbourne City this year? They were champions the season before, dropped down a bit, and then, are we seeing a further decline for them? Will the decline continue? Or was that just a little blip, and is it going to go straight back up?
It's funny because they declined, but they didn't. They declined in a sense, they still won the premiership, but
that's true.
It's just, it was not a very convincing premiership. I mean, they didn't beat a top 4 team for the entire regular season. They beat Adelaide in that second leg semi, and they made sure to remind everyone, hey, we actually beat a top 4 team, so you can't, give us any stick about that anymore, or ask us questions and bring up our bad record. But you can't help but think a little bit about that grand final. But in the same vein, they still have a lot of quality in this team. They've done very well this offseason, bringing in Valum Berisha and Thomas Lam in particular, who I think are 2 very handy acquisitions. Berisha to replace Connor Metcalf, and Lam to play either as a centre-back or play as a 6, while Aidan O'Neill slowly gets back to full fitness. So whether he slots in alongside Raish or Curtis Good it's an upgrade on Roston Griffiths, who was getting towards the end of his career. Going forward, they're going to score a lot of goals this season. I still expect they're going to win a lot of games just by sheer weight of quality, what they've got going forward. That front three and with Tilio and such, they've got enough quality there. Just defensively, it still concerns me a little bit. I mean, last season they conceded a lot of goals in transition, and they looked very porous in that sense, especially against teams that could hit them quickly down the flanks. AKL Western United did so well against them last year, and that's obviously a storyline to watch tomorrow night. But I think still this season they're going to be right up there. I think Parish is going to be a great signing for them. I think Tilio, should he, continue to do what he does, I think he's going to be a very handy player for him this year and go to another level. So for me, they're going to be a top 3 team. They're going to have a home final. So I guess we'll just wait and see, whether it all clicks again for them when it gets to the nitty gritty, because I think that teams like Victory and Western United are going to be right up there again, and they're going to be potentially, the way that they play and the way that they've hit them in recent times could cause them still the same problems. So I'm curious to see if how they defend in transition this year, and whether that's been something of
almost got an answer. Keep your answer short, D'Urbano, because we can barely hear you.
D'Urbano talked a lot about Marco Tilio there. I don't think Tilio starts for this team.
Wow.
I think he played 53.3% of available match minutes last season. I think he's going to have to get a little bit fortunate, more so not anything to do with his own skill, but just to upgrade on that because of the sheer weight of numbers in that Melbourne City attack. Leckie, Naboo, and McLaren are clearly the first choice attackers up top. But then behind that, you've got Florent Bernier, Valon Barisha, and Van der Ven in there as well, all veterans. Inevitably, one of them is going to get poochied. However, there's just so much attacking talent in there. I'm not 100% certain that Tilio starts regularly or plays even extended minutes off the bench in that team, which is going to affect his World Cup case. We're talking about the likes of Arzani and Kuol.
His World Cup case.
Yeah,
he won't go to World Cup if he doesn't play. If he doesn't start.
Yes, that's the point I was working my way towards.